Hello, I'm Kelsey Casey, the director of the Plymouth Public Library. I am reading excerpts from Women in Science by Rachel Ignotofsky. I am reading this with the permission of Crown Publishing. Nothing says trouble like a woman in pants. That was the attitude in the 1930s anyway, where Barbara McClintock wore slacks at the University of Missouri. It was considered scandalous. Even worse, she was feisty, direct, incredibly smart, and twice as sharp as most of her male colleagues. She did things her way to get the best results, even if it meant working late with her students who were breaking curfew. If you think these seem like good qualities for a scientist, then you are right. But back then, these weren't necessarily considered good qualities in a woman. Her intelligence, her self-confidence, her willingness to break rules, and of course her pants were all considered shocking. Barbara had already made her mark on the field of genetics with her groundbreaking work at Cornell University, mapping chromosomes using corn. This work is still important in scientific history. Yet while working at the University of Missouri, Barbara was seen as bold and unladylike. The faculty excluded her from meetings and gave her little support with her research. When she found out that they would fire her if she got married and there was no possibility of promotion, she decided she had had enough. Risking her entire career, she packed her bags. With no plan except an unwillingness to compromise her worth, Barbara went off to find her dream job. This decision would allow her to joyously research all day and eventually make the discovery of jumping genes. This discovery would win her a Nobel Prize and forever change how we view genetics. Barbara McClintock's story is not unique. As long as humanity has asked questions about our world, men and women have looked to the stars, under rocks, and through microscopes to find the answers. Although both men and women have the same thirst for knowledge, women have not always been given the same opportunities to explore the answers. In the past, restrictions on women's access to education were not uncommon. Women were often not allowed to publish scientific papers. Women were expected to grow up to exclusively become good wives and mothers, while their husbands provided for them. Many people thought women were just not as smart as men. The women in this book had to fight these stereotypes to have the careers they wanted. They broke rules, published under pseudonyms, and worked for the love of learning alone. When others doubted their abilities, they had to believe in themselves. When women finally began gaining wider access to higher education, there was usually a catch. Often they would be given no space to work, no funding, and no recognition. Not allowed to enter the university building because of her gender, Lisa Meitner did her radiochemistry experiments in a damp basement. Without funding for a lab, physicist and chemist Marie Curie handled dangerous radioactive elements in a tiny, dusty shed. After making one of the most important discoveries in the history of astronomy, Cecilia Payne-Gaposchkin still got little recognition, and for decades, her gender limited her to work as a technical assistant. Creativity, persistence, and the love of discovery were the greatest tools these women had. Marie Curie, now a household name, but throughout history, there have been many other great and important women in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Many did not receive the recognition they deserved at the time and were forgotten. When thinking of physics, we should name not only Albert Einstein, but also the genius mathematician Emmy Noether. We should all know that it was Rosalind Franklin who discovered the double helix structure of DNA, not James Watson and Francis Crick. While admiring the advances in computer technology, let us not only remember Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, but also Grace Hopper, the creator of modern programming. Throughout history, many women have risked everything in the name of science. This book tells the stories of some of these scientists, from ancient Greece to modern day, who in the face of no said, "Try and stop me." Elizabeth Blackwell. She had no interest in medicine until a friend of hers died from what was most likely uterine cancer. Her friend said she might have experienced less pain and suffering if only she had had a female doctor. This put Elizabeth on the path to becoming the first woman medical doctor in the United States. Elizabeth was born into a family of abolitionists in 1821 with an upbringing that valued justice and equality. While working as a school teacher, she was mentored by male doctor friends and read books from their medical libraries. Although many didn't believe it was possible, she was accepted into Geneva Medical College. Medical school is hard for any student, but Elizabeth faced additional challenges. Often met with hostility, she had to sit separately from the male students, and her teachers were embarrassed by her presence during anatomy lessons. When asked to leave a lecture about reproduction to protect her delicate sensibilities, she argued her way into staying. During the summer, she worked in a hospital in Philadelphia and saw how the hospital conditions contributed to the spread of infectious disease. The experience inspired her thesis on how good hygiene could prevent the spread of typhus. In 1849, she graduated from Geneva Medical College, first in her class. Elizabeth's sister Emily also became a doctor. Together with Marie Zakrzewka, they opened the New York Infirmary for indigent women and children in 1857. It was a place for the poor to get treatment and for female medical students and nurses to learn. In the 1800s, there was little known about communicable diseases, and hand washing was not mandatory for doctors as it is today. It was very common for doctors to go straight from treating someone with the flu to delivering a baby without even washing up. This caused the spread of disease like typhus. Elizabeth realized that prevention is better than cure, and in her lectures, she advocated for better hygiene standards in hospitals and homes. Elizabeth went on to found the Women's Medical College of the New York Infirmary in 1868 and the London School of Medicine for Women around 1874. An inspiration to many women, she also made it possible for many of them to become doctors. This book has great pictures of the women and also kind of little side snippets around the edges of the big block of text. All right. Hertha Airton, engineer, mathematician, and inventor. In 1854, Phoebe Sarah Marks was born in England. She was so energetic that her friends nicknamed her Hertha, after a German earth goddess, a name she liked so much that she adopted it. Hertha was definitely the type to live life on her own terms. Hertha's family was very poor, so at 16, instead of pursuing her passion to go to a university, she worked as a governess to send money home. Fortunately, she met Madame Baudichon, a leader of the suffragist movement in the UK, who would help Hertha pay for her education. In technical school, she met Professor William Ayrton, who would become her husband and partner in invention. In the 1890s, awful flickering and hissing electric arcs were used for streetlights and lighting in theaters. William and Hertha wanted to improve the lighting technology to make something quieter. At one point in the invention process, all of their notes accidentally burned in the fireplace, and Hertha had to start from scratch. While William was away, she invented a new rod that made a clean and quiet bright light. Hertha burst open doors for women by getting published and giving lectures on electricity. During demonstrations about the arc, people were amazed to see a woman wielding such dangerous-looking equipment. She was the first female member of the Institution of Electrical Engineers. However, women were not allowed to speak at the Royal Society. When her book, The Electric Arc, was published in 1902, it became too successful to ignore, and the Royal Society eventually allowed her to present her paper. In 1906, they also awarded her the Hughes Medal for her body of work concerning electricity. Hertha was also fearless when it came to politics. She was a vocal advocate of the suffragette movement and provided aid to female protesters on hunger strikes. Hertha participated in the 1911 boycott of England's census and wrote an impassioned letter on the form demanding the vote for women. Hertha's genius paved the way for women everywhere to play with dangerous machinery and invent great things. So here is Hertha. And there are many more women in this book that all deserve a little extra love and attention for what they did for the fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But that's all I can give you for right now. If you are interested in this book, you can find it at the Plymouth Public Library. We're now open almost to normal hours, but you can always do curbside pickup. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and thank you for the Plymouth No Place for Hate for inviting me to do this.